This is the Box Office Podcast. I'm Daniel Loria, the editorial director of Box Office Pro, the pulse of theatrical exhibition. And in this week's episode, Rebecca, Pahle, Chad Kennerk, and I are going to be going over the October slate at the box office, some of the biggest movies coming to a theater near you. And to kick off this episode, we're going to be starting the way we usually do, Rebecca and Chad, by talking about what we saw in the last week. I'm assuming this was P.T. Anderson weekend for everybody.
It was a P.T. Anderson Monday because I was not going to not see it on 70 at the big IMAX at Lincoln Center, and I was just not quite quick enough on the draw to get opening weekend tickets. So don't tell my boss, but I did take off of work part of the day Monday.
I mean, it is technically work, right?
It is, right?
We are talking about it during office hours. I think you're fine. You know, we're still in business. How about you, Chad? When did you check it out, and where did you see it?
Yeah, I saw a press screening at Regal, and I also saw The Smashing Machine, so we'll be talking about that later in the episode. But I really loved One Battle After Another. Just kind of, I think we probably all agree it kind of knocked our socks off.
Yeah, I shared in the group work chat that my parents actually saw it before I did. They saw it on opening weekend because they're not quite as insistent on film formats. And it got the best compliment that my mom could give it, which is that it's a 3-hour movie that she did not fall asleep during.
Oh, look at that.
She really enjoyed it, and she did not. She falls asleep during everything. Like, it's not a knock on movies that she falls asleep during, but it was just like, whoa, this was a 3-hour. But yeah, and I was riveted through the whole thing. That car chase near the end of it, it looks
How is
so
that exciting?
good.
Like, I'm still amazed that P.T. Anderson pulled that off. You have a car chase sequence, a full-on sequence in an empty road with 3 cars going in a straight line, and it worked. I'm still shocked that it was as good as it was. But buzzing from the film, I think everybody that's seen it so far has it as one of their highlights of 2025. It topped the box office over the weekend with a $22 million opening weekend, a career high for director Paul Thomas Anderson. And I think this one's going to have legs. Really going into award season, I think Warner Brothers is going to keep this one in theaters. And talk about a hot streak at the box office for this studio. It wasn't that long ago when we showed up to CinemaCon, where studio heads Pam Abdi and Michael DeLuca, let's say they were in the hot seat, according to other trades. We, of course, did not run with that story, which was hearsay at the end of the day. They seem to be in hot water. That week changed everything at CinemaCon with the massive opening weekend of the Minecraft movie, which has just led to one hit after another for this studio. And it's great to see a movie like this going to P.T. Anderson. I think his first full-fledged have the studio resources movie. They gave him the keys to the lot, basically, asked him to do anything he wanted, and he pulled something that I'm still buzzing about well over a week after having seen it.
This is the last wide release Warner Brothers movie so far this year.
Yeah.
So a really good note to go out on.
Kind of weird, right? That they don't have anything coming up for the end of the year. We're going to have to wait, I think, until Wuthering Heights, the Emerald Fennell title that's coming up in early, I think it's Q1, either February or March, if I'm not mistaken, of 2026.
Yeah, we have a lot of good stuff coming out. I mean, there's The Wicked, The Avatar. I like that we had such a crowded holiday corridor last year, but it's nice to not have all the studios feel the need to, spread it out, spread it across the schedule a little bit.
Yeah,
that's all you need to do. And we'll be talking about that schedule in a little bit. On my end, I got to catch Sentimental Value, the new Joachim Trier movie that premiered at Cannes earlier this year. That title is coming out in early November from Neon. A solid movie, man. Renate Reinsebe, the lead actress, who you might remember from Joachim Trier's last film, The Worst Person in the World, another commanding performance by her. I don't know if you guys knew this. She was originally cast as the lead in Weapons, but obviously with a reshoot schedule, she had to drop out. Julia Gardner stepping into that role. So we missed out a debut of that caliber from Renate, but seeing her in her element, working with a director she knows really well, we just have to bide our time to see her, I think, in a big Hollywood title. And I can't wait to see what it looks like when we do. We've got a new update here on the political side. There is a new threat on tariffs happening in Hollywood. You might remember this from the spring, when the president, shortly after tweeting a picture of himself as the Pope, announced that there would be a tariff for all Hollywood productions that left the country, but also there would be a tariff for films coming into the country from other countries.
It made very little sense. We were trying to parse in that podcast episode what does this actually mean, considering the realities under which the global film system works. What does a tariff on international films even look like? Does this new incarnation, Daniel, does it make any more sense than it did before?
No, because we don't know. There's really nothing of substance behind the announcements, which increasingly sound like threats that are being made on social media.
It feels kind of like keep it intentionally vague to see how people respond and which studios with the...
And frankly, I don't know if there is something substantive here or if it's a way to pressure the Democratic governor of California into A, B, or C. Maybe it's just... part of the president's taste. We know when Parasite won the Academy Award for Best Picture, he went out on Twitter at the time, basically saying that the best movies were American movies. I'm paraphrasing here, but basically saying that he preferred seeing American-made films winning the Academy Award, which I don't think is an absurd opinion. I think there are people that feel that way. I disagree with it, but people have that stance.
Yeah. There's been one. What
I don't particularly understand here is, like everybody else, how you enforce or enact a tariff on a film. And we're not going to go back into this, guys. If you are really curious about our thoughts on the topic, you can go back to our episode from earlier in the year. It's probably called Tariffs at the Movies. Just Google Tariffs and Box Office Podcast. You'll find a deep dive on what it could potentially mean, what it does mean, what it doesn't mean. All I know is that there is a Hollywood advisory committee around the president that is made up of Jon Voight, Mel Gibson, and Sylvester Stallone. Mel Gibson's next film, the sequel to The Passion of the Christ, partially shot in Mexico, if I understand that correctly. So that would be eligible for a 100% tariff to make it into the U.S., which I think would be inconvenient for everybody involved there. Sylvester Stallone, not a stranger to the influence that international cinema has had in his career. He's spoken about that many, many times before, and he's shot many productions outside of the United States himself. And finally, Jon Voight, who came in with a real plan, with a number of points that he presented to the president. A lot of them, to be fair, didn't seem out of the blue.
I mean, a lot of them were very oriented around bringing production back to LA when they've, increasingly going to Canada, other overseas nations.
It wasn't a crazy proposal from Jon Voight. It made, I think, a certain amount of sense. And I think there is a version of that Voight proposal that could eventually find even bipartisan support that would actually come into a massive win for the president here in Hollywood in these very divisive times. So it's really hard to know where things are right now, what the point of these statements are. We can just wait and see what it looks like and how it's going to be enforced. Other than that, we already tried to make sense of it. We couldn't. We still can't. There's nothing else we can add. We've been through government involvement in the film industry many times. And fortunately, that's why we have a trade association called the Motion Picture Association that exists basically to help the industry out and make sure that these things are done in the right way. To this day, we have not heard anything from the Motion Picture Association regarding this topic. Now let's move on to our feature segment as we go over the October slate at the movies, starting with this weekend, October 3rd, which was looking to be like a very, very slow weekend. The last two frames at the domestic box office have each grossed under $100 million in total. It might be the same unless the Taylor Swift thing massively overperforms. Let's start with the big headline, AMC, the exhibitor, saying that its distribution arm is putting out a film in wide release, which is neither a concert film or a documentary. It's kind of like a listening party doc hybrid. Is that what we're calling it?
Taylor Swift, the official release party of a showgirl, because her new album is called The Life of a Showgirl. It seems to me like there's a music video premiere and, her behind the scenes music stuff, but it seems like the sort of thing that you would have seen like tied to an album release on VH1 back in the day.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah. 20 years ago, this is something that VH1 or MTV might have done on television.
Taylor Swift wants to squeeze every bit of money that she can out of her fans, and if theaters get some of that money too, then...
I think we're all happy with that result if that's the case. We're currently looking at an opening weekend and total domestic run between $30 to $40 million. I put it that way because the film will only be playing from October 3rd through 5th in theaters nationwide. Pre-sales have been looking great, very positive results, but of course we have a lower ceiling here just because this isn't exactly a concert film like last time. So don't expect that $93 million opening weekend to be part of this weekend. But if it wasn't for this title that really came out of the sky, it would have been one of the worst weekends of the year. And when we talk about box office, it's not just about the $100 million movies. It's about making sure that every weekend has something to fill your auditoriums. And that's exactly what AMC is doing with this model. It worked already with Taylor Swift in the past. They're going back to the well again. And I'll take that 30 to 40 because we wouldn't have gotten anywhere else this weekend without it.
Which is strange to say when the other wide release is a movie starring Dwayne Johnson, but it's something of an offbeat movie starring Dwayne Johnson. So Daniel, this is A24's The Smashing Machine. He's a MMA. I know you're more like tuned into the world of like combat sports than
I'm more tuned into boxing. Mexicans don't really watch MMA. Okay. That's not our demo. You could say that more and more over the years, but it's just not culturally part of our sports life.
But it is like based on a true story, right? Of some.
It is. And I think most importantly for me, I'm not an MMA fan, but I'm a huge Benny Safdie fan. This time coming out with his solo directorial effort, his first one. His brother Josh is going to be coming out with Marty Supreme at the end of the year, also by A24, also a sports movie of sorts, though that's ping pong. We'll get to that later. But I'm very much looking forward to see this movie. I think it's high time for The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, to take a risk, although I'm not sure this is a massive risk, but it's still a departure from the traditional popcorn fare he's been associated with. I can't wait to see it. Chad, you saw this over the weekend.
Yeah, so it definitely retains a lot of that Safdie Brothers quality that we're used to. So I think you'll be happy to hear that, Daniel. It's also maybe important to mention that it's not necessarily a sports movie in the context that we normally think about a sports movie. It's more a character study. There's plenty of fighting in it, but it's not necessarily the prime focus here.
A24 put out, was it last year or the year before, that was The Iron Claw, that was more about like...
Yes, it's definitely more in that vein of The Iron Claw. The performances are great. I think Dwayne Johnson, this has got to be the best thing he's ever done. I think both of them, him and Emily Blunt, found a quality in these characters that I don't feel like we've ever seen from either of them.
Pain and Gain fan here on them's fighting words.
Southland Tales. I mean, you can count the interesting Rock roles with one hand, right? So I'm glad to have him back on cool career decision mode. And I can't wait to see this. Again, I think what Chad says, that this is a character study rather than a sports movie, is I think at the heart of why The Rock was involved and why I want to see it as a moviegoer. We're currently expecting a $10 to $15 million opening weekend for this title, fighting it out with one battle after another for second place at the box office this weekend. Elsewhere on the release schedule here on the October 3rd frame, we have Avatar: The Way of Water, a re-release from 20th Century Studios. Smart idea and a slow weekend to get people excited to see Fire and Ash at the end of the year. Not much I'm going to add on to that there, but Chad, on the actor front, we're talking about The Rock, but we really should be talking about the other big star coming back in a very interesting role this weekend, acting for his kids' movie, Daniel Day-Lewis in Anemone from Focus Features. This played at the New York Film Festival last week. I missed it, but I think reviews are already trickling out. Chad, you're a professionally trained actor yourself. How are you feeling about Daniel Day-Lewis's return to theaters? Because it's not really a retirement. He's just very selective for the roles he takes.
Yeah, I think he even publicly said, like, oh, I was such a fool to say that I'm retiring and now I'm coming back. And
I didn't ask my son first if he wanted to make a movie.
It's a rap retirement. Rappers used to always retire, like in the 90s and 2000s, and then you'd have another CD. That's fine. Floyd Mayweather retired a bunch of times in boxing. I get it. He's in the Mayweather.
He's Soderberghing it.
Aura. Yeah, Soderbergh. That's another retirement that we heard. I do think that when Tarantino calls it quits, that's going to be it, at least for a while. But no, I'm happy to see Daniel Day-Lewis back. What's your favorite role of his in his career?
I love Last of the Mohicans. There Will Be Blood's obviously up there. I mean, there's so many.
I mean, Phantom Thread, I mean, recency bias, but that was
I know.
that was so
Yeah.
that was so
Gangs of New York for me.
Gangs of New York,
he makes
yes.
Gangs of New York work,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah, there's just so many performances. I think if you like acting, he is one of maybe 3-4 actors that you'll just pay to see in anything he's in.
What's the
Exactly.
Merchant Ivory one he did? Room with a View? He was so fun in that because he was just like a nerdy little uptight dweeb. It's not the sort of... He was funny. And his roles don't tend to be that light. But yeah,
he's got range.
That and My Beautiful Laundrette, like, same year.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, not a Daniel Day-Lewis movie, but definitely up Rebecca's alley is the horror title Bone Lake from Bleecker Street. Both an amazing title and one of the best one-sheets I've seen all year. Give me the elevator pitch of this one, Rebecca.
I mean, the elevator pitch for me for this one is that in a post-weapons world, I'm trying to know as little as possible before I go in to see horror films. But yeah, it looks, from what I know about it, it's you have a couple kind of ending up in a crazy old house that is already inhabited by another couple. You know, just one of those kind of horror movie premises that is basic. I'm not going to say it always works, but there's always potential for it to work. And yeah, I've heard some good things about this one, so it's definitely on my list.
It's becoming like a bit of a subgenre in horror. Like, we both booked the Airbnb.
Yeah, it's a little bit...
Yeah,
because it is a horror story in your vacation when you both book an Airbnb. Actually, Airbnb itself is becoming a horror story, period.
Roommate horror, as fewer and fewer people can afford to not cohabit with someone else.
Housing problems.
Housing horror, yeah.
Now let's move on to the weekend of October 10th, which is going to be headlined by Disney's Tron Ares. What does Ares mean? What is that? Just put a number in it.
He's the Greek god of war.
Oh, there we go. All right, Jared Leto's in this. What else we got? Nine Inch Nails is doing the music.
I love that there's a trailer for it before one battle after another, and it was very much like, this is Nine Inch Nails, and very little by way of Jared Leto. He hasn't really had a big breakout hit since Suicide Squad 7 years ago.
I mean, if we go down this road, Nine Inch Nails is for people squarely age 45 and over. I hate to say it. I mean, I'm a fan, but like, come on. Nothing about Nine Inch Nails means younger viewers are going to come in and watch this.
This seems like, I mean, if you're making a Tron movie, they're not aiming for the youth.
No, they're aiming for premium screens, and there's not much else going on. Right now, we're looking at a $40 to $50 million opening weekend range. I believe that's not too far from the opening weekend of Tron Legacy, which was released, 10, 15 years back? I forget. But it's around that range where we're expecting this performance from. That weekend, however, I'm going to be training out to see Paramount's Roofman from director Derek Shenfrance, starring Channing Tatum and Kirsten Dunst. Drama, a type of movie that doesn't get made by studios very much these days. So this is the type of Sunday afternoon movie I always like to go see with my wife, and I'm just happy I have an option to see it. Again, we aren't expecting blockbuster numbers from this one. Right now, tracking between a $7 to $10 million opening weekend. But we got to come out and support these titles because we need to see them in theaters. We need to have them made theatrically moving forward for this industry to survive.
Yeah, it's set partially in my old hometown of Charlotte, so I gotta check it out just for the Charlotte, North Carolina representation. You might have ex-cons living in the roofs of Toys R Us's and sneaking out to go to church.
Shot on location, by the way, Rebecca, as you'll hear from my interview with the director in next week's episode of the podcast. Yeah, one of those movies that I really just can't wait to see. The other title coming out on October 10th, we've got If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, a limited release from A24 that is one of the best reviewed movies of the year so far, playing at the New York Film Festival this week.
Definitely seems like an actor's showcase for. I mean, I love Rose Byrne. She's great in comedy roles. This one doesn't look so very, very comedic, but yeah, it definitely looks like one I'm gonna put on my list to check out.
From Sony, we've got Soul on Fire. This is a faith-based film, Rebecca. What do you know about this movie?
It's one of those that I used to work at Barnes & Noble, and the book that this was based on is kind of in the self-help / faith-based, religious. It's written by this gentleman whose son was in a horrific accident, and it's kind of, he went on to become a public speaker, and lessons that he learned from his trials and adversity, and it's being released by Sony's Affirm shingle, right? So that's their faith-based. So yeah, I mean, speaking of films of a variety of different genres, budget levels, target audiences, you kind of never know with faith-based films, because so much of it does come from grassroots marketing. But yeah, this is definitely an interesting one to get a wide release, and I'm curious to see what it does.
On the limited side, we've got a Netflix title from Catherine Bigelow called The House of Dynamite, another political thriller. Catherine Bigelow, whose career probably peaked with The Hurt Locker. Then there was, I think, a lot of buzz with the Let's Go Get Osama bin Laden movie. I forget the title. Zero Dark 30. There you go.
Zero Dark 30. That was great.
Your cheating ex-husband for the director race.
That's hard to top.
It's hard to top that, right? It's great to have her back, but I do wonder just what the audience reaction for Zero Dark 30, what that impact was in her career, because there was a lot riding on that follow-up.
It's so strange to look at Zero Dark 30 and Hurt Locker and think, like, this is the woman who gave us Point Break.
Go back to Point Break. And in terms of theatrical adaptations, Roadside Attractions is bringing out an adaptation of Kiss of the Spider Woman. Of course, this isn't a remake or a re-release of the title starring Raul Julia. Is this based on the Broadway musical, Chad? What's the connection with the theater world in this one?
Yeah, it is an adaptation of the musical. I know Jennifer Lopez, this is a role that she's been, I think, wanting to play for a long time. Bill Condon, for me, is a little hit or miss, but he definitely knows how to make a great musical. He just
sometimes chooses not to.
Yeah, so we'll see. It got positive feedback at Sundance. I'm always down for a musical.
Yeah, good slate here, full of movies for that October 10th frame, led by Tron 3, as I'm going to call it. And we had Joker Folie à Deux last year, and now we have this thing. Just come on, just put numbers. For the love of God, put numbers. Make this easy for everybody. And now looking forward, on the October 17th weekend, we've got Black Phone 2 from Universal. Excuse me, I said the Black Phone 2. It has been retitled to Black Phone 2. You don't need it's just Black Phone.
But the first one
2.
was The Black Phone, right?
I just complain about sequels not having numbers, and Universal just played into this. So I'm not going to complain about this. I'm just pointing it out. They dropped the.
I just don't like the inconsistency. That is my pedantic editor's consciousness coming to the fore. Yeah, I mean, the first one, it was one that I didn't love it. It was one of my favorite horror films of the year, but it definitely was performed well. It was good to see Ethan Hawke kind of back in that horror movie vibe. So yeah, I think our predictions for this one, at least opening weekend, are pretty much like identical to the first one. It's kind of looking very much like a Venom 1, Venom 2 kind of thing.
Yeah, $20 to $28 million opening weekend range for this one. Chad, you enjoyed the first one. Are you planning to see the sequel?
Yeah, I'd like that this one's stepping a little more into supernatural territory. The first one had some elements of that, but this one seems to be going fully into that zone and making kind of a Freddy Krueger, I would say, kind of character out of this villain.
I thought the first one ended really well. I was surprised to see there was a sequel announced, but if you're going to do it, might as well take it supernatural. That's never gone wrong for anyone. So knock on wood there for Black Phone 2, because, man, Blumhouse really needs a hit this year. They're going to have to wait until Five Nights at Freddy's 2 in December to, I think, have as close to a guarantee as possible. But right now, Black Phone 2 tracking between $20 to $28 million for that opening weekend range. Lionsgate is coming up with a comedy that same weekend to counter program the Aziz Ansari directed Good Fortune, starring Keanu Reeves. We saw a bunch of this at CinemaCon a couple of years back. I think well received.
It was a really good presentation. I mean, it was definitely one of those. Aziz Ansari, who directs and also stars in the film, came out and did the pitch, and it was very much one of those. Yeah, you want the director to come in and pitch that and put their heart into it. The Naked Gun didn't do so hot.
And we're expecting something similar in terms of opening weekend performance here, between 10 to 15 million for opening weekend for Good Fortune. Yeah, I wish it well. We need more comedies. It's great to have something like this out there, but just the trends haven't been helping us lately with this, but I think it picked a good weekend. I think it counter programs. It comes to the right time of the calendar. And you could easily see something like this ending up on streaming. I'm appreciative that it's not. And I really do hope it can find an audience in wide release. Talking about wide release, we've got a movie here from Angel Studios, Truth and Treason, a historical drama.
Definitely not a comedy. Yeah, it's
definitely not a comedy.
Similar to their, speaking of titles that are difficult to pronounce, Bonhoeffer.
Yeah.
Did I get that right? It's a similar sort
along
of
the same lines, around the same time in the calendar,
resistance
right?
against Nazis. It feels very similar. And between that and Cabrini, they've had a good track record with the sort of serious historical drama.
There's something there for them. I think this has worked for them. I think their audience responds to this, but we do expect this to perform along the lines of other movies for that core audience from Angel Studios on its opening weekend, at least. We have a couple of limited movies, one expanding on October 17th, After the Hunt, from Amazon MGM. This is from director Luca Guadagnino, a cancel culture drama, timely for a couple of reasons this week. I did not catch it at the New York Film Festival. We tried to get Luca on here in the publication. We weren't able to, ran out of time. But this looks interesting, at least. I think this is a performance-based film. Chad, at least I know that's the way you're seeing this.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Julia Roberts against Andrew Garfield. I admire both of their work, and I don't know. I like Luca's films. I tend to appreciate them even if I don't enjoy them. So I'm seeing this one actually. I'll have seen it by the time this episode comes out. So I'll let you know what I think.
The limited release comes out a week prior on October 10th, but that October 17th expansion will be good. This is a movie that we expect to play a role. I don't know how big of a role, but definitely a role in the awards race. Yeah, I think for me, we already have the movie of the cancel culture era with Tar. I don't know if going back to that topic is going to give me a better movie from anyone. That's how good Tar was a couple of years back.
Like a Amazon MGM limited to expand. Like, I'll just rewatch Challengers. That at least has tennis
sexy
drama,
tennis players.
Nine Inch Nails, Trent Reznor's score.
And then the final limited release we have here on our program is The Mastermind from director Kelly Reichardt, one of my favorite filmmakers. I got to catch this at the New York Film Festival as well. A charming film. I mean, I absolutely love Kelly Reichardt's works.
Speaking of challengers, it's Josh O'Connor, right?
Yeah, he's here in the main role. He's great. Alana Haim is in this as well. This is a great Sunday afternoon movie, a great fall season movie. If you don't want something too heavy, this is, I think, a good option to have a good time with a movie made for adults in theaters on October 17th. And now moving on to October 24th, definitely not for adults. Maybe. I mean, who knows at this point? We're going back to the anime with Sony releasing Chainsaw Man, the movie, the first appearance of the famous Chainsaw Man.
I think anime as a genre is a demo unto itself. That they strangely, before One Battle After Another, they played 2 trailers in a row for this one. And as we left the theater afterwards, my boyfriend turned to me and said, I would rather get my teeth pulled than watch that movie, which is to say, if you're into it, you're into it. And if you're not, you're not. And different strokes. Which I think this one is getting an IMAX release, which I guess it would explain why the trailer played before One Battle Another on IMAX. So we don't know. It's not looking like it's going to get to Demon Slayer.
Oh, we're not expecting. No, we're not expecting something that big. We're expecting something between $7 to $10 million, which is still great numbers for an anime title, but nothing compared to that Demon Slayer opening weekend performance that we saw a couple of weeks back. So from anime to another type of book, we've got the latest Colleen Hoover adaptation coming out to theaters in Regretting You, coming out from Paramount. We do expect that one to perform decently well in the box office on its opening weekend, currently tracking between $15 to $25 million. Guys, this movie will challenge the Bruce Springsteen biopic, Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, which is also tracking at the same pace right now for number 1 that weekend. And I would say between the two, my money's on Regretting You to pulling off that number 1 spot between that and Springsteen. Where are you guys falling between the two movies?
I'm falling on I'll see one battle after another again if it's still has a showtime. No, I mean, regretting you, it's not my sort of. It's that very like kind of hallmarky, lifetimey relation, mother and daughter. It's weird. It's a movie about a mother-daughter relationship called Regretting You, which feels a little just a little weird. But I think Yikes describes like the plots of a lot of Colleen Hoover movies. And clearly there's an audience for them. It's a release, it's a Schadenfreude, it's a Girls' Day movie. That against Chainsaw Man, two different movie-going crowds. I'm sure they both just house a pitcher of mimosas if offered.
Great for alcohol sales, and I wouldn't discount Springsteen to bring in some alcohol sales itself. Now, Chad, I can probably name 2 Springsteen songs. Are you a fan? Are you in the Springsteen fanosphere at all? Or is it kind of like the Bob Dylan one that you're kind of walking into it expecting a good performance from Jeremy Allen White?
Yeah, more the latter, where I'm interested in the performances. I don't know a lot about Springsteen, so I suppose I'm curious what the backstory is there. Very much like with the Bob Dylan movie, my wife has listened to him more, so I think she's excited for this one.
There was that movie a few years back about the kid in like 80s the UK who is a Bruce Springsteen fan. Gurinder Chad is Blinded by the Light. That was kind of like an adjacent Bruce Springsteen film.
Yes.
And it did kind of educate me, and it was interesting about how like this is a timeless, like he's an artist for the working class, regardless of the decade, regardless of the country. Clearly he connects with a lot of people. So yeah, it's I'm not particularly a Springsteen person myself.
And we're expecting another modest opening weekend from that title, as I mentioned, battling it out with Regretting You for the top of the box office on October 24th. That is currently tracking between $15 and $25 million for its opening weekend. Now, the final title coming out on October 24th is a movie that I can't wait to see with my wife. This is a really interesting elevator pitch. You have heard of Rodgers and Hammerstein, the musical duo, wrote a lot of iconic classic musicals. Well, before Rodgers and Hammerstein, there was Rodgers and Hart. And this is a movie about that professional divorce. What happens when Rodgers and Hart goes to Rodgers and Hammerstein? It sounds really interesting for a film, probably set over a couple of drinks and a dinner after a show. I can't wait to see this. As a theater fan yourself, Chad, is this up on your radar?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a movie for me. The whole thing's set at Sardi's, which I love. I'm looking forward to it. Great cast. I like Richard Linklater's work. Again, repairing with Ethan Hawke. I've been hearing really great things about Ethan Hawke's performance in this.
It's great to know that we at least have one Richard Linklater movie at the cinema this year. And of course, Nouvelle Vague is probably going to get some sort of limited Netflix run in theaters. If I'm not mistaken, that actually might even be coming out at the end of October. But it being a Netflix movie, and unless we know that there's going to be any effort whatsoever in having folks go see it in movies, I'd rather just focus on the work that Sony Pictures Classics is doing with a real theatrical campaign for this Richard Linklater movie. And I'm very much looking forward to it. That is coming out on October 24th. And on Halloween weekend, it's going to be a little slow here, Chad. I think a lot of folks are just expecting to go trick-or-treating that weekend because the only release we have on the schedule is the wide expansion of Yorgos Lanthimos' Bugonia, remake of a film that if I call it out and you look it up, it will spoil this movie. So I'm just going to call it a sci-fi kidnapping plot that is probably going to be closer to Yorgos's darker works than his more audience-friendly films. But I love all his movies, and I'm really looking forward to ending the month with this one.
Yeah, me too. I love his films as well. It's kind of, he's one of those filmmakers that I'm just going to go see it. You know, it doesn't matter what it is. I'll go see it. Sight
unseen. I think there's going to be some twists here to keep us on our toes. Well, thank you very much, Chad and Rebecca, for joining us here on the Box Office Podcast in this special October preview at the movies. Don't forget to subscribe to the Box Office Podcast to get the latest news and insights from the world of theatrical exhibition. And we will be back with a new episode next Thursday when Derek Chanfrance, the director of Ruman, joins us for a conversation. Thank you again for listening, and we will talk to you again next week.